Redditors, have you ever been in a community so toxic you had to leave? If so, which one? I grew up in a bad family environment, and I learned to tolerate certain things as a coping mechanism / survival strategy. As an adolescent I should have been more sensitive to those qualities in people and learned to avoid them, but instead I was especially tolerant as I had learned to be, and I surrounded myself with crappy people who took advantage of me. At some point I realized my friend group was toxic and started cutting them out one at a time. It was a slow and painful process, and it messed me up to end those friendships, even though they were bad for me. I had a lot of doubts. How could all my friends possibly be jerks? If I'm having conflicts with everyone I know, then obviously the problem is me and not them, right? Well, turns out it was both. They were all jerks because I had chosen jerks to be friends with. In a lot of cases, my friends didn't even like each other. What a mess I made. As an adult it's a lot harder to make new friends, but I'm glad I eventually made those realizations and cut people off for my sake. I'm still lonely, especially in lockdown, but the people I do have in my life are a lot more supportive now. It turns out that when I'm not following a deeply ingrained path of self-destruction that I started on as a child, I'm actually a pretty good judge of character. Oh my god, I could have written this. I'm a little bit stunned. I bet it's a common journey. I was briefly in a Discord server where mods had made a role called the clown role and gave it to anyone who went against the majority opinion. Dude, some Discord servers, crazy. BF was once an co-admin to a server that basically became almost like a business. They had the server owner, never really around, admin / DMS, BF and like 5 other people and players. I had the unfortunate luck to be privy to basically every quarrel and convo that the higher ups had to discuss. Most of the mods / admins were under 25, in school, with a lot more time on their hands than my BF. Usually there was one girl who constantly complained about trying to enforce the rules and nobody ever listening to her. There were player / DM issues here and there. They met up like staff meetings. Then there were out and out fights that went on for weeks between people who basically misunderstood each other and kept using BF as a mediator. Then they'd actually have to schedule talks to mull things over. How I found out every time it was a simple misunderstanding. Also BF was mediator to those. It became one of those things where my BF felt needed by them. He liked these people, but he could never see my side, that they leaned on him way too much for what I thought was appropriate. I've probably written about this before, but it caused a huge strain on our relationship for a good 3 months. It was a lot of feeling ditched for a Discord server he wasn't getting paid to run, while having real life things he would often neglect without forethought. It was a lot, emotionally, and I really hated these people for having the nerve to get angry when he started working again and not being as available like they'd been used to. BF sincerely believed that the server's eventual downfall was because of him not being there. It really had to do with the server owner freaking off and nobody really knew how to revitalize it. But like WTF? Am I the asshole? The hive mind and bullcrap opinions are unbearable. I stay subbed for the occasional greats like the guy that ate almost an entire 6-foot party sub, but it's completely lost its fun now that it's become a tragic mess of humbleburgers that are clearly not assholes and people practicing their amateur short story writing skills. Mayo, what? Do you have a link to that one? I tried League of Legends once. Never again. I started playing Dominion only, and everyone playing Dominion was super chill, because games didn't last 40 minutes, the beta wasn't set in stone, and Dominion games weren't ranked. Then they dropped that game mode, because apparently it was taking too many people away from the super serious lane-based map. Honestly, I quit LoL back in 2013 or 2014, and never went back, except to play Dominion. That was the only redeeming factor for this game. People were salty as usual, but only up to a still manageable level, and I was having fun so I played Dominion games for a while. There was nothing left for me there once they removed the game mode. People were being toxic even in Aramanduff mode, so I left for good and never looked back. Overwatch. I love the gamma play, I really do, but when people start yelling at me for not getting a team kill or not picking the characters that they want, it ruins the game for me. Then they pick a troll character and say stupid crap like, okay well if you're throwing the game, then I'm going to throw too. Like how do they expect new people to learn when everyone is held to such a high standard? Such a shame. That game is a lot of fun. Dude, it's unbelievable. A lot of people in comp are actually insane. They throw a little tantrum if the opposing team accomplishes a single goal like capping the first point or some crap. It's like, that's just part of the game. We can still easily win, you lunatic. Even if you go off and get 5 picks in a row, they'll still just say stupid crap like whatever, you're garbage bro, and just not let up. Sometimes, like if you're healing and doing a great job and they die, they just denote all blame to whichever healer has a mic. And no matter what, the second they take damage they start spamming they need healing until they just throw. It's infuriating behavior and taints the whole competitive experience. I notice the worst are those with gold borders and up who've been playing the longest. They really think they're gods who should lead the team every match, even if they're not even that good. Gets one shot by a widow. Our healers are trash. More of an online community. It was a breastfeeding support group. As a first time mom, I really wanted to learn about baby stuff, so I joined quite a few mom groups. The excessive superiority and self-righteousness of these purest breast is best advocates was bad. They would lambaste moms for offering formula milk to the babies. Some were so harsh that it was truly hurtful for the women asking for help, especially moms of newborns who are hormonal and sleep deprived. Found a different source of info instead and left that group. I'm physically unable to breastfeed due to scar tissue. A physician and the physician she sent me to for a second opinion agreed that it's not possible. The breastfeeding specialist in the hospital, a registered nurse, not a volunteer, chided and shamed me because I obviously just didn't want to because it hurt. My protests at my OB and the breast specialist I saw told me I could not were ignored. Clearly I just didn't want to deal with the discomfort, and do I know how terrible it was for my newborn bish. I filed a formal complaint with the executive office. Were there any consequences for her? Military spouse support groups. They get mean for no reason at all. Then they find out where your spouse works and try to get them into trouble with their first shirt. And the rampant pyramid schemes. No matter what continent you're on or country you move to, pyramid scheme everywhere. Unpopular opinion was just a bunch of whinny crap, common opinions, nonsense, and a sprinkle of psychopaths. If you haven't heard of it, the 10th dentist is a much better version and actually has those nice mundane unpopular opinions, like not liking the cold side of the pillow and stuff. Look at the rules for upvoting and downvoting though. I don't know if it will last. The problem with unpopular opinions is mainly just the fact that it became one of the more popular subreddits. The Star Wars subreddit made me ashamed to be a Star Wars fan. Somehow the /r/The Mandalorian was a lovely community that avoided all the toxicity of /r/Star Wars. They restored my faith that Star Wars fans are in fact not inherently toxic, only the diehard old movies only fans. Man, I think the problem with all toxic communities comes from people who just don't understand the creator/fan relationship. Basically, I've been a huge fan of the thing you created since forever, therefore you owe me for some reason. That, and the idea that you're a fan of something means you somehow own it. I grew up with the original Southwestern trilogy. I hated the prequel trilogy and quite liked the new trilogy. If I argue with you and tell you you're wrong for liking the prequels, or you tell me I'm wrong for liking the new trilogy, we are basically accusing each other of having fun wrong. The most pointless and irrelevant argument in the universe. If someone makes a movie and I don't like it, that just means I don't like it. It doesn't mean people are dumb for liking it, and it certainly doesn't mean the creators of that movie somehow owe me for making something I don't like. It's that sense of entitled ownership that breeds toxicity. Ever live in an Hoa? I did. Never again. Dude, I live in an Hoa too, and we decided to paint our house a different color. To do this, we needed to go to every house that could see our house and get them to sign a paper saying they accept the color. Along with this document, you have to submit a paint chip and a picture of the house. Then once you submit it, best of luck, because even after all this work they can just say no. And if you have a problem, You can email the person working there. They won't respond, but you can email them. Can't wait to move out. A friend of mine lived in Anhoa when we were teens. Her house was the first built, and they'd painted it a color that was later not among the approved colors list. The first few neighbors were fine with it, but once a head was elected she was not. She was threatening fines and liens and all kinds of stuff. Unclear if she could legally do any of it. Anyway, her dad bankrolled us to get a bunch of flower bulbs in unapproved colors, and in the middle of the night we snuck over and planted them. It took months, but it absolutely paid off. Every time she'd bish about something, my friend's parents would ask when she was going to fix her unapproved flower colors, and we had planted these every 3 feet on a very large suburban lawn. My former megachurch's praise music band. We performed in front of 2,500 people and there were always 4 to 8 singers on stage. It felt like I was on American Idol watching singers trying to outperform each other by who could sing the loudest with the most vibrato, while raising their hands in the air. Oversouling is the best term I've heard for it. Let's keep it under 10 seconds per vowel, people. You could also call it overacting. It's awful on stage, whether it's acting or music. And other musicians too. I love Eddie Van Halen, but God almighty, he spawned legions of guitar players that don't know how to shut up and play your part. It wasn't toxic per se, but it was a negative part in my life. I used to have a friend group that never made me really happy. I never felt validated by them and became sad whenever I was around them. I love being around people and friends and just knowing that having to leave them and get some friends that liked me more was scary, and I just didn't want to have to leave a bunch of friends that I had spent 3 years with. I found some really good friends now. I haven't really talked to my old friends, but life is a lot better now where I really feel like I belong with them. Same. Mine was a stew of negativity. Nothing was ever our fault. We fetishized depression and anxiety, used it as an excuse for doing nothing. Most of us were overweight or very unhealthy, but our mindset was it's genetics, nothing we can do about it. We were lazy and self-righteous. My dad got hospitalized after having a heart attack. Doctors ordered him to diet and exercise. I started exercising with him. We both saw major improvements. I started getting shunned by the group and eventually straight up rejected. My life is so much more work now, haha, but it's so much better. All of the just no subreddits. Way too toxic for me. Funny enough, so was relationship advice. Almost every post has red flags and strangers calling for you to leave your partner. Seeing as how I'm single and my mom passed away, I don't need that negativity anymore. Absolutely. I brought up to someone to remind themselves that what their mill did was fricked up, and their mill's actions weren't done out of malice. They were done because the mill is mentally unwell. I brought this up as a way to get them to see that it wasn't the op's fault and there was something wrong with the other person. I was temp banned because I supposedly was, I can't remember the term, mansplaining or something like that, as if I was trying to gaslight the op by just getting them to have a different way to view what was happening, even though I acknowledged that the behavior was intolerable. There was another time a poster brought up a child that had died in their post, and then commenters were being banned for bringing up the child in comments because we were traumatizing the op or something. And one person who had repeatedly posted about their terrible mill and then posted a story about how they left their children alone with the mill for childcare. I commented that it seems like they should know their mother-in-law's behavior and asked why they would leave their children alone in her care, having all these previous experiences, and was told I was victim blaming. It's not a support group for most people anymore. It's a place where people go to become mini celebrities with these super long ass llama feed stories. I left just no mill when I was told that it was not a place for discussion or questions, but for unconditional support. Basically, no matter what, you had to take the side of the person making the post and ask no questions and give no advice. Fuck that noise. I moved back to my reservation in my early 20s and I found it to be such a crappy place to live. Everyone knew everyone's business, and like 90% of the people living there were alcoholics living off the welfare system. Someone died about once a month from drinking and driving on average. I worked with a young Native American lady. She was outgoing, personable and friendly with everyone. She worked hard to do well in life. She once told me that the other natives on the res would often call her an apple, red on the outside, white on the inside. My heart broke for her. I get that from black folks calling me an Oria. Sigh. The LGBT community. Speaking as a cis bisexual woman, I have personally experienced far more hatred and ignorance from the LNG than I ever have from straight counterparts. Excluding trans people BC, they've all been supportive. The things a lot of L/G people say are awful, and they think BC they're not straight, that they can't be ignorant. You being homosexual does not give you a pass to be transphobic/biphobic. There are exceptions of course, as with literally everything, but this has consistently been my experience, to the point that I'm uncomfortable in LGBT clubs/events/etc. I'm a gay guy and I've found that there's a lot of racism and antisemitism in the LGBT community. When I was on Grindr, literally half the comments were about my ethnicity, ranging from the more obvious kosher sausage jokes, to comments about Israel, to Holocaust references, to terrorism references, I'm brown, to straight up being called racial slurs. In less sexually charged environments, I'm always really cautious about revealing that I'm Jewish, because antisemitism is making a resurgence all over the political spectrum. I feel like, if I want to be taken seriously or not treated like crap in queer spaces, I have to be a good Jew. This means being explicitly anti-Israel, not complaining or even acknowledging antisemitism on the left, or identifying as white, even if no one has ever considered you white in your life. Plus I'm Mizrahi, meaning Jews from Central Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa, so reminding people that I'm not white and not from Europe seems to really upset the good people at my university's queer space. Grindr is both one of the largest gay dating apps and the crappiest one. From the bots to the underage kids that the mods don't remove, and the abuse of faceless profiles, I've honestly given up on it. I've definitely seen the Jewish equals pro-Israel equals you are evil types. Ironically, they have the same or less awareness of current events as the strawman conservative they put up. I myself have been called an evil imperialist because I was in the military. Those people are what kill LGBT spaces and groups. Clash of Clans. I joined a friend's alliance for PvP matches. The only rule was that everyone takes part, no exceptions. I couldn't join in because I had to go to a family funeral, so I messaged my friend to explain and he understood. When I logged back in a few days later, someone else in the clan had booted me out for not participating. My friend brought me back in as soon as I told him. Within minutes, the player who booted me sent a rambling, abusive message about how I had personally cost the clan their ranking. I hadn't. He then kicked me out again and started raiding my base repeatedly. Again, I messaged my friend and he brought me back in. Cue another crappy message from Senor Beanbut, a kicking and a series of raids, this time from multiple members of the clan. I apologized to my friend and deleted the game from my phone. He dissolved the clan and reported everyone who had attacked me. Those kinds of games are complete crap anyway. I played a game like it called Icarium. Whoa, that game is just awful. It's where if you're not online then you're basically fresh meat for anyone. Time plus money equals good at game. Is that the type of game I want to play? I stopped a long time ago, like 6 years ago maybe, but I check in with some people who still play here and there, and it's just gotten so much worse. Now it's just a game with hardly any population and new servers being added monthly, while everyone whines about the new servers ruining the game, which they did. Last time I checked, they brought in some new board system and now no one posts from the US boards anymore. The board used to be a site in 2008, 2011. Tons of people, but abusive power-hungry mods would ban players who said things they didn't like, and so soon everyone who participated on the boards was banned. It looks like a dead rotting body now.